I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess, and it's going to be my favorite time of year soon, Victober. So Victober is short for Victorian October. It is a month-long readathon being hosted this year by Kate Howe, Katie from Books and Things, Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, Petra and Roz from Dandling About the Books. I think I got everyone's names right. So this is not my first Victober, actually. I've participated for the last 2 years, but this is my first Victober on YouTube. So I am extra excited. And you're probably thinking, Elizabeth, you're a Victorianist. Every day is Victober for you. And yes, it is. But it's not often that I get to have a ton of people to also talk to about Victorian books. Like, it's usually just me and my other 19th centuryist friends, and then like maybe occasionally some people on BookTube or Tumblr, but this is a whole month of people just talking about Victorian literature, and I am so excited. So naturally, I have a ginormous TBR, and will I get to it all? Probably not, but you know, I'm gonna try. So I'm also going to be participating in the challenges set out by each of the hosts. So I will go over those ones first and then just kind of my other ones. I am not participating in the buddy read of The Mayor of Casterbridge because I already have 2 Thomas Hardy books on here and I don't need any more books that are not on my exam lists. All of the books here are on my exam lists. So I'm basically justifying participating in this by being like, but look, it's all for exams. So yeah, let's get into it. So first up is Kate's challenge, and this is to read a Victorian work with chronic illness or disability representation. And I'm actually going with one that has been talked about quite a bit because it is one of Katie's favorite Victorian books. This is Olive by Dinah Mullet-Craik. And yes, I hate this copy. It is so stupidly large and the print is tiny, but I had it on Kindle, but there's no page numbers on the Kindle version. And since I'm doing an exam where I'm gonna need to be quoting things, I need page numbers. So I bought this horrendously floppy copy and we're just gonna have to live with it. Olive is a story of a girl named Olive who is born with a curvature in her spine, so probably scoliosis would be my guess as a modern diagnosis for it. But so she is thought like she's never going to get married or have a normal life, so she becomes an artist. And this is a coming of age story just about her, and it actually works for Katie's challenge as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. But Olive has the curvature in her spine, and her mother also, as the book goes on, starts to become disabled and ill. So chronic illness and disability representation. I have read this before, hence the Kindle. I read the Kindle version and then got mad about the page numbers, but I do want to reread it because my friend Michaela is presenting on it at the conference we are going to in March. We're doing a panel together on recovering lost voices in the 19th century, using disability and trauma theory to look at underread works and characters from canonical works that have been kind of overlooked. So Michaela is doing Olive, and I want to reread it. Plus, I should reread it anyway because I kind of don't remember a lot. Okay. We're just gonna put it there. Ugh, don't even talk to me about it. So next up is Katie's challenge, which is to read a Victorian Bildungsroman, or coming of age story. So again, olive counts for this, but I also have another one that I'm pretty sure qualifies. It is The Beth Books by Sarah Gran, and I think I had this on my TBR for September, and that didn't happen. So this is a semi-autobiographical novel, offering a portrait of the artist as a young woman. So the protagonist is Beth, obviously, and it starts out with her childhood and then goes through her becoming an artist of some kind. I don't know if she paints or if she's a writer or what. And it says she challenges the limitations of provincial life in Ireland and Yorkshire. So it sounds really good. This is actually kind of a last minute addition to my lists because I wanted more by Sarah Gran, and I was running out of books on my Victorian popular women's fiction list, and that's kind of supposed to be what you do. You like start with a bunch of books and then you get less books. But I was like, no, I want more. And I'm just kind of crazy. But yes, this is a coming of age story, and hopefully it'll be good. I read Gran's The Heavenly Twins a few years ago and had mixed feelings about it. There were some really good parts and then some really parts, but we'll see what happens. Next up is Marissa's challenge, and this is to read a Victorian short story. And at first I was like stumped for this because I don't have any short stories on my lists other than, well, sure, I have Sherlock Holmes stories, but like I've read them all already, so I don't really feel the need to reread them. But I was going through my books and I realized that I have this collection of Victorian short stories, The Trials of Love, edited by Harold Orrell. And this has a ton of different authors, including Anthony Trollope, George Egerton, who I'm really excited for. George Egerton is a New Woman writer, and her short story collection, the main one is Keynotes. And so this has the story A Little Grey Glove by her. George Egerton is obviously a pen name. There's also one by Israel Zangwill in here, which is surprising. I've read The Children of the Ghetto by him, but I haven't seen anything else by him around. There's Rudyard Kipling, Arthur Conan Doyle, Elizabeth Gaskell, Thomas Hardy, and Henry James, and several others who I don't know. So I have a lot of good options here. And I mean, it's a short story. I can read that in like a few hours or less, depending on how long it is. The other option would be The Lifted Veil by George Eliot, which I have in an anthology, and I'm not holding it up because it's like that big. And I think it's also at campus. Oh dear, this isn't going to work, is it? Good enough. All right, next up is Petra's challenge, and so I have some options for this one too, and most of the options are actually doing only half the challenge. This is to read a Victorian book and watch a screen adaptation of it. So, and actually, I have a few more options than I thought I did, I guess. Well, let's sneak that one over here. So the first option that I had was to watch the adaptation of Middlemarch from, I think it's the 90s BBC miniseries. I think that's Will Ladislaw. We're not going to talk about that hair. But I'm not rereading Middlemarch this month. Middlemarch and I have a very complicated relationship, and we're just not dealing with that right now. But I do have this movie, and I would like to watch it. It would involve bullying my husband into watching it with me, but you know. So that is an option. The other option would be for my, to help with my paper that I'm writing for this conference, which would be to rewatch the 2018 miniseries of The Woman in White. So I would not reread The Woman in White this month just because I read it already back in March and I don't feel the need to reread it right now. But I do want to rewatch this adaptation because I am bringing it into my paper. So this would involve slightly less bullying to get my husband to watch it because it's a little more like thriller mystery-esque, but I don't own it, so I would have to get it through Amazon Prime, which is kind of a pain in the butt. So other options to read the book and watch a adaptation would be Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is a reread for me, and honestly, I wasn't gonna reread it, and then Dracula Daily happened, and everybody's talking about it, and I should reread this anyway because I wasn't in a good place when I read it originally. So I'm just gonna do a quick reread, but there are tons of adaptations of this, including a really enjoyable like modern day one, or like part modern, part period piece on Netflix, which I've watched already, but I could rewatch that. And then there's also there's a movie, I forget who directed it though, but the costumes that Lucy wears are really cool. So that is an option. And then the other option would be The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy. I had this on the September TBR, didn't get to it, shocking. But there is a 1997 movie of this that I would have to locate and again bully my husband into watching with me, but we can manage that. So, some options that involve doing the whole challenge, some options that involve just half the challenge. We'll see where we're at, what we can get access to, what my husband will agree to watch, and then we'll go from there. And then Roz's challenge is to read a work of Victorian poetry, long or short. And I have a ton for this because I have a ton of poetry on my list that I have not read yet because I'm like, poetry. First up is Aurora Leigh and Other Poems by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So I bought this because I thought Aurora Leigh was just going to be on my exam list, and then my advisor was like, I don't think you really need Aurora Leigh. But then the more I read about Aurora Leigh, I'm like, no, I need Aurora Leigh. So I do want to read the entirety of that. It is an epic poem, like it's quite long. It takes up the majority of this book. Like, this is all Aurora Leigh, and these are her other poems. But I want to read this whole thing. I really like Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I actually had one of her sonnets read at my wedding, or not read, but sung. It was set to music. It was beautiful. And all of the sonnets from Sonnets of the Portuguese, is that what they're called? I thought they were all in here. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I thought they were in here. Maybe they're not. I'm pretty sure at least some of them are in here. Anyway, but yeah, so I would like to read more by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and I have to read some of her anyway, so here we go. And then we've got her husband, Robert Browning. So this is the selected poems from Penguin Classics. I was originally only going to read some of these, and then I was like, it's short. I could read all these, like read a few each night or something, and that would be perfectly doable. And it turns out I'm actually going to be teaching Brit-Lit survey next semester anyway. So I should be reading like all these poems and figuring out which ones I want to teach. So, and then I have a few others. I've got this collection of the Pre-Raphaelites from Rossetti to Ruskin. And I do need to read Dante Gabriel Rossetti and Christina Rossetti, who are both in here. So I'm not going to read this whole collection, but I am going to read all of their poems that are in here. And then in my Norton anthology, which I'm not holding up because that thing is giant, I've got Alfred, Lord Tennyson, obviously, and Matthew Arnold, who I don't think I've ever read anything from. And I think that's all for the Victorian poets. Most of the poets on my list are romantics, but you know. So those are all of the challenges, and like that right there is a really good reading list, and you're gonna be like, Elizabeth, you're adding more. Yeah, I'm adding more. So, this first one is one I might not get to, but I know that there is a read-along of it going on right for this month. So this is Villette by Charlotte Bronte, and this is the read for Bronte Along, which I haven't been participating in because I didn't really need to reread any of the Brontes right now, but I think I should reread Villette because I don't remember it too well, and I hated it because there's so much French in it. And I was reading my copy from the 40s, which is a very beautiful copy, but it doesn't have any footnotes. So I was sitting there trying to translate the French in my head, and I'm not very good at that. So I would love to have some footnotes to tell me what the heck is being said and see if that makes a difference with my feelings about it. But this is like the lowest priority. Like, this is at the bottom of the pile if I have time. And you're probably thinking, Elizabeth, you're not going to have time. Are you insane? But the answer is yes, but you know. All right, and then we have another Thomas Hardy, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. This was on the September TBR. It didn't happen. You know, hey, this is a reread. I read it in high school, and I loved it. It's extremely sad, but I loved it. But I do need to reread it because I have very hazy memories of it. I suppose I could also watch an adaptation of this, but I have seen an adaptation of this before, and I don't know if I can handle that. This is sad. All right, and then next up is another one that's been on here before. This is The Daughters of Danaus by Mona Caird. This has been on like 3 TBRs so far, and I should really just frigging read it. It's so long. I haven't been in a reading mood this month. Will that just fit on there? I've done a horrible job organizing these. Oh well. All right, and then we've only got 2 more. This is A Sunless Heart by Edith Johnstone. So this is another one that somebody on our panel is presenting on, and I'd never heard of it. And it's a woman writer who's a Victorian, who's underread, so of course I'm gonna read it. And I know that I said when I got this book in the haul that I had when I got it, I was like, it's not for my lists. I added it to the lists. We're not gonna talk about it. I have actually no idea what this is about though. But it's examining significant concerns such as female work, sexual perspective, abusive behavior, and searing poverty. Okay, sounds uplifting. But it's also short, so there is that. There's always that. And then I think this was on my September TBR too, and it didn't happen. This is Thelma by Marie Corelli. I don't know much about this. I know Corelli is a sensation novelist, and I know that I hate this copy. But yeah. That works. So yeah, this is my incredibly ambitious Victober TBR. Let me know down in the comments below, what are you reading for Victober? Have you read any of these? What did you think? Do you think maybe I'll actually get to some of these this time? Because I don't. No, I'm like actually gonna read for Victober. You'll notice I don't have any like nonfiction for my feminist theory list, although actually I'm totally just realizing I have one more to add. Hi. Another one from the September TBR that didn't happen. This is The Subjection of Woman by John Stuart Mill. This is a Victorian piece of feminist theory, and it really does need to happen, so that's getting added. Now I'm done, I promise. But yeah, so other than that, I don't have any of the feminist theory stuff on here. I don't have any of the critical works. I am just focusing on the fiction and the poetry for Victober because honestly, that's what's fun to me about this entire process of getting a PhD in Victorian literature is reading the novels. So I kind of just wanted a month where I get to do that. And then in November, I'll go back to my theory and my critical work and all that jazz. And then we'll take these in January and we'll be done. But anyway, yes, tell me what you're reading. Tell me if you've read any of these. What did you think? It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.